We do not want to separate parents from their children. You can be sure of that. If we build a wall, we pass some legislation, we close some loopholes, we won't face these terrible choices.
That's Sessions continuing to defend the policy. And again, I want to hear from you at home, 38766-2428. Let's go to the first caller, along with Dominic and Andrew. Let's welcome Miriam. She's calling us from Staten Island. Miriam, you're on the line.
Hi. I'm really upset about this. My father was a Holocaust survivor. And how is this any, I mean, they, in the camps, they separated the men and the women and the children in the concentration camps. This is awful. This is just terrible. It's horrible. It's what comes next? What are we going to do next? Who is he going to pick on next? I just feel like it's very scary. It's just very, very scary. That's how I feel.
Thank you for the call, Miriam. And yeah, there's been plenty of times where I said, well, there's a line I've never seen before. You can't go past that. Putting kids in cages, you know, who thinks this up? Honestly, in your own personal lives, do you know anyone personally, casually, who could come up with an idea of taking kids from their family as young as 2 and putting them in a cage? And by the way, not touch them. And Dominic gave an analogy, you know, what he described as, you know, almost like an animal. Unbelievable. You were going to say something?
Yeah, it's just that Miriam made a reference to Germany in during the Holocaust, and normally we tend to shy away from these kinds of comparisons. General Michael Hayden, I believe, made the same comparison on Twitter this weekend, showing, I think it was either Auschwitz or Bergen-Belsen, and the families being separated there. It is, and Michael Hayden was the former CIA director, so this is not, you know, this is not out of the blue. She's not the first one to make that comparison.
And just as an aside, this was a solution in search of a problem, in that, of course, we have immigration concerns we had for a long time. But the idea that somehow you're improving the national security by separating the parent from the child. Think of all the inherent problems, forget the lasting damage you're going to do to these kids. You don't think there's going to be a greater chance for abuse here? You don't think there's a possibility where you're going to have the children separated from their parents and not being able to be reconnected in the rest? Whether somebody didn't think this out, or God forbid they did and still went ahead with it, it boggles the mind.
Secretary Nelson was asked point blank where the girls are, because we've seen videos of young boys, but we haven't seen girls or toddlers. She didn't know. She was able to say that they're being treated well, but she doesn't know where they are.
And that's what we were told as it related to the Haitians, that they had to separate the men from the women, because we were told that the men would rape the women, and so that's why they were separated. But I am telling you, having observed this firsthand, it's like walking up to an animal in a cage and almost petting the animal as much as you could fit one finger through. And Richard, I just want to make this point, you know, through the fence. I want to make this point. So let me make sure I got this right. We are at a verbal war with Canada and Germany, American allies. And now we're putting children in a cage. If you don't think that we already have a problem around the world in terms of how America is viewed, what do you think it's going to be now?
You can't say anything crazier about this. Let's go to Catherine in New Jersey. Thanks for holding, Catherine. Go right ahead.
Hi, good evening. It's hard to talk about this without getting really emotional. I'm a mother and an educator, and I think you had brought up the lasting damage that is being done. Even if these 2,000 children were reunited right now with their parents, this is lasting damage. This is damage for their entire lives, and that cannot be understated. And it's just really incredible that this is happening. And I'm sorry to say it, I make no secret that I don't support Trump or his administration, but at this point, I actually believe that this administration is evil, because only an evil person and an evil administration would allow this kind of atrocity.
Well, more than allow, seek out. This wasn't being enforced. They had to consciously sit down and say, well, what can we do? They're not giving us the funding for the wall, the funding for what we want to do, and I can't get the votes in Congress to do this. By the way, as you all know, the House and the Senate are controlled by Republicans. So if the president's not getting the funding or not getting the programs he wants, it's because his own electeds on Capitol Hill don't either agree with the policy, don't believe their constituents believe with the policy, and in a midterm election year are extremely concerned, i.e., they've been pushing the president to resolve the DACA issue before the midterms. So the administration sat down and said, what can we do to basically put a lever in to drive them to give us what we want? And you have the policy that we see in front of us today. So whether you agree, disagree with whatever, this was a conscious decision that nobody, not even the administration, really believes is anybody's choice but their own, to do this with the kids basically being the ransom here to get what they want. Let me go to the phone lines. We got Joe from Long Island. Joe, you support this policy, is that right?
I don't support the policy. I support the people taking responsibility for their own actions. These people are putting their own kids in harm's way. And all the people that are complaining about it, why don't they adopt their kids if they want to give them a better life and take care of these kids? Why don't we do something in their own country to stop all the drug lords and that putting pressure on them? People like me who are going to retire can't stay in our houses because our taxes are going up so much. I'm going to be an old person soon, and I have to sell my house because I can't afford the taxes because of all these programs. I feel bad for kids getting separated from their parents, but if I robbed a bank and I got arrested because I broke the law, I didn't make the laws, but, nobody enforced it great. But how about we stop breaking the laws? How about we stop bringing these drug people into our backyards that are these gangs?
Thank you. I asked you, and I certainly wanted to give you your 2 cents. A few issues with where you went on this, okay? First of all, you're from the island, right? I'm from New York, too. Let's go in the New York Harbor. Take a look at what the lady holding the torch had to say, okay? I doubt you came over in the Mayflower. Neither did I. That said, I'm not saying let's have a sieve by the border, but there's a reason the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, go back to Reagan if you want. None of them ever did any of this because it's not who we are. Secondly, your property taxes going up, you think it has anything to do with this? We've cut social program funding in the last 2 years in this administration more than it was before. So let's not connect the two. And finally, robbing the bank, you think that's the same thing as people fleeing a country like you or I probably would do the same thing with our kid because you were afraid they weren't going to make it alive in there? They're not sneaking under the fence in the middle of the night. They're coming here seeking asylum. By our definition, they are not breaking the law. They are applying for asylum. So they come in, they say help, and what we do is we take mom and dad, take them away from the kid, put the kid in a cage without any promise about them getting connected again. My point is, Joe, we can agree that we got to do something about immigration policies if you want. I believe in comprehensive immigration reform. I actually supported what George W. Bush had to say. However, this ain't the answer. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll get to more of your phone calls. You see the number on your screen here, toll free. If you're not on them, join us now. We'll try and get to as many as we can next segment.